Every character, location, or experience you've read about in my crime fiction novels holds a piece of reality. I'm Helen Taylor. Welcome to the story behind my stories, the video podcast where crime fiction meets my authentic experience. Here, we delve into the real-life inspirations and intimate stories that shaped my novels. Discover how my everyday encounters, adventures, and travels translate into tales as gripping as they are genuine. The story behind my stories goes behind the words on the page to reveal the backstory that inspires my writing. Hit follow or subscribe and ensure you're part of this journey. Hi everybody, it's launch day. It's out. Grab your copy. It's it's my best yet. It's the best one in the UK series, the UK side of the series, because as you know, it alternates between international and UK destinations. And if you follow me at all, read anything else, listen to the podcast, you know that everything I write is based on experience. Let me read you the the acknowledgements in Die Trying. As a current walking rugby member and one of the bar staff at Esher Rugby Club, I am grateful to have been welcomed into the rugby world with the love and inclusion that only rugby seems to know. Whilst this book is born of my experience of that world, the characters, motives, and physical descriptions are wholly imaginary and not based on any person or persons known to me. The layout of the club and its practices are also fictional, as is the Old Waltonians as a club. That's the name I've given to my fictional club. But, as you can see, and I've just to impress and show the authenticity of me in the rugby world, this is my Esher Bishop's Walking rugby shirt. And it's Esher Rugby Club that I am a member of. So last week we talked about rugby and how I got into it and what I found was different for compared to other clubs I'd been to, rowing, a running club, triathlon club, but also how much more welcomed I was into the rugby world. Now you will see, if you read the book, there will be references to something not being rugby or not being not being rugby. And rugby is, as a word used in that sense, is the people. They talk about it being the rugby family, and it is a family, except this family is a family that you've chosen, not the family you have to put up with. And it is a family that welcomes everyone. As we talked a little bit last week about chauvinism, maybe it's my generation. I see it as gentlemanly. Younger crowd might see it as more chauvinistic, more. But there is a loyalty and respect are two of the rugby values, and loyalty especially is just built in to all the people that I've met in my 2 and a bit years of knowing rugby. And I've used that very much in the book. If you follow my blog, the blog that was out 2 days ago talks about whether you could set a crime at a rugby club without breaking those rules of rugby: loyalty, respect, honour. And I really hope that the rugby people, like Ben, who has obviously already read it, and I had author copies last week, and so a lot of the guys that I play rugby with are incredibly supportive of me, buy all of my books, and they will be reading it now. But I hope, as part of the rugby family, and they've brought me into that I have shown the loyalty and the respect of their culture and honoured those values in the making of this book. Now, I don't want to give too much away, so you're going to have to read it to understand that. But if you read it, you would understand that I haven't done anything against those values in bringing crime to my fictional rugby club. On some other of my books, namely probably Don't Die For Me Argentina, as the series is developed, we know we've got the characters of the team, of Goodwin's team, and they were created a long time ago and were never based on anybody in particular. And we get inklings of their character. And like in Leith Hill, we get an inkling of Angela Phillips's character, and that she cycles and things like that. But that's the bits of me that did that. And the same with Penny. And then Don't Die For Me Argentina, they've become more character based, because you've got to know the characters a bit, but also they are the characters of the people around them. And none of the ones in Connecting Trains were ever based on anybody. And the same in Leith Hill, apart from the bits I take from me. And Don't Die For Me Argentina, there was inklings of the people that I did that with. And I don't know how I've managed to do it in Die Trying, but there isn't a single key character in there who is based on anybody that I know in rugby. They don't look like anybody I know, they don't behave like anybody I know, and they aren't based on anybody that I know. But Ben tells me he can see traits of people he does know. So that's brilliant, because that means I have captured the essence of the people that play rugby. So I'm now going to read you a little bit of chapter 1, as that crosses over a couple of things that I've talked about. And as with all my other books, it's my initial perceptions projected onto Goodwin. Chapter 1. Matthew Goodwin put his shoulder against the door, pushing it open, keeping his hands warm in his pockets, as if he had forgotten to bring his gloves. It was a bitterly cold February Saturday, match day for the first 15 at the Surrey Rugby Club that had been a long-time haunt and favourite place of Philip Bowman, Goodwin's best friend and also his DCI. Bowman was a big hulk of a man and sat naturally in the second row of any rugby team. He'd managed a long stint at rugby without any permanent injuries, playing for the police at Imber Court, the Metropolitan Police Sports Ground in Molesey. He'd also supported and occasionally played for the team at this Surrey club, Old Waltonians. He'd played in the vets team for a good many years until knee and hip problems put paid to any running he was able to do. The brutal contact of rugby and recovering from that physical punishment was all just taking too long as he got older. Touch was out because of the running, so he'd been playing walking rugby, which gave him everything he missed from the real game without all the other issues. Goodwin was meeting Bowman, as he did on occasion, for the pre-match lunch and a chance to socialise with the lads. The rugby club was a place where Bowman and Goodwin could be themselves. It was rugby that united them, not their jobs, so nobody cared that Bowman was a detective chief inspector and Goodwin was a detective inspector with the Surrey police. Goodwin pushed the door shut with his elbow, the cold air being shut out, the last gasp chasing him in and snaking around his ankles. The pre-match lunch dress was smart, suit and tie, with many of the members sporting old Waltonian club jackets. Goodwin wondered again why he'd dragged himself out on this Saturday morning, for what he knew would be a heavy drinking session and a couple of hours stood in the cold. He could have stayed home, snuggled in the warm with Jane, but he knew why he'd come. He'd played rugby at school, though it had never quite captured his heart the way it had Bowman, or any one of these other people stood here. At least not enough to want to play. He'd like to say he was gentler of heart, but many of these people around him now were probably even more so. That was the odd thing about rugby. Not just the shape of the ball, but the people who played it. They were hard. They were tough. They thought nothing of running full force directly into another player, scrabbling around in the mud with several heavy, solid men crushing your chest. For what? To protect an odd-shaped ball? That was them on the pitch. They were altogether different off the pitch. After a shower and a scrub up for a night out after the game, the playful bullying and the banter continued, as they would invariably get drunker as the night went on. These men could wreak violence, willfully inflict crushing pain to their fellow human beings, destroy each other physically and be capable of receiving the same pain and aggression, yet leave it all on the pitch. It had always amazed Goodwin, from playing himself as a youngster, that the rugby world seemed not to have spawned violent men in the real world. At least not that Goodwin had ever had to arrest. The men he'd met here, through Bowman, at the many matches he'd attended in support of his friend, when they'd come together, had always been what could only be described as gentlemen. As the dictionary definition of gentle, yes. In their hearts, yes. In the traditional sense of a gentleman, in putting others before themselves, respecting women, loyalty and love, each and every one he'd ever met was a true gentleman. Goodwin scanned the room, searching for his friend. It was normally easy to spot him, no problem finding the big bulk of a man. He filled the room, not only with his vast size, but his voice and laughter too. But here, among many equally sized men, with the cacophony of sound that emanated from the room, here that was less easy. Bowman didn't stand out, he blended in. Goodwin withdrew his hands from his pockets. The fire blazed to his left as he wiped his feet on the mat, taking in the shields that hung above the bar and all around the upper walls. The flames lit the gold plaques fixed to the brickwork, surrounding the fireplace, immortalising the memory or recognising those who'd contributed to the club. He started inching through the people toward the bar and the sound of Bowman's voice as he caught sight of his friend's ever-increasing bald patch towards the right side of the bar. He'd been here so many times, spent so much time here with Bowman over the years, that everybody knew him too. Each person he said, "Excuse me," to, each person he'd lay his hands on their backs to gently squeeze through, they'd invariably nod, or they would know him. There were hugs, handshakes and greetings, meaning his journey from the chills outside to his friend's side took way longer than it naturally would. It reminded Goodwin why he was here. It was like coming home to a family that engulfed you in their love and warmth. A family where you felt you belonged. A family where you were lifted up. A family of gentle men. A place so steeped in the values of honour, respect and loyalty. It was ripe for the shock of a brutal crime, but it was never ready for what was to come. So there you go. That gives you a little bit of a taste of chapter 1. And Goodwin seeing what I saw when I first joined rugby, and Goodwin experiencing the doubts of why would you go out on such a freezing cold day to run around in the mud and destroy each other, but the camaraderie, the warmth of the people, that's just forgotten. And it's very much my experience of rugby. And in my twisted mind, I thought, okay, you've got this group of people that are so loyal to each other, so phenomenally steeped in that tradition of honour, respect and loyalty. How far could you push that before something breaks? And how far would members of the rugby family continue to be loyal if, say, one of their own committed a heinous crime, or keep secrets for each other? How far does that honour go? And can you really respect, to the extent that rugby is respect, somebody that challenges your desire to respect? How far would somebody go to protect rugby at an imaginary club with imaginary people? And I like through my series to throw in these cases where they are personal to key members, Goodwin or key members. So we had Angela Phillips and Lethal Leith Hill on the cycle, but she just happened to be in the same place at the same time because that's a moving thing. But one of my ARC readers has actually commented on Die Trying that she loves the fact that the whole book is set at Old Waltonians Rugby Club. So that is it. In order for you to know how far you can push that loyalty, how far you can push that honour, and how far respect goes when somebody, or more than somebody, breaks one of those rules. In order to know that, you're going to have to read the book, because I can't reveal that on my podcast, or it would ruin the story. So that's all I'm going to read from that for now. And next week, I'll be able to move on. And we will talk about some of the characters. If you follow me on socials, you will have seen some of the character profiles, and I'm going to briefly run you through them. I can't tell you that they're based on people that I know, because they're not. But I can give you some insight into some of them. And we will, next week, there's a big promotion on the whole series going on. If you haven't started the series yet, Tie-Dye is free from the 1st to the 5th September. And all of them, including Die Trying, is free to read on Kindle Unlimited, if you have that. Or sign up to my newsletter at helentaylorauthor.co.uk or helentaylorauthor.com. And if you're in the UK, then you can pick any one in the series as your intro into the world of D.R. Matthew Goodwin. And then you get updates, and you know what's going on, what I'm working on next. And like I say, remember, out today, it's there, you can buy it. Paperback, hardback, Kindle, or download it on Kindle Unlimited and get reading. And I will catch you next week for the next episode.